All right, it's great to be back solo for the second straight week. We do miss Joel Sherman, who normally runs the show. I'm happy to be here replacing him. My co-host will be Sean Casey, my favorite, don't tell anybody else, at MLB Network, a terrific analyst, a 300-plus lifetime hitter. We'll find out exactly how much over 300 he was and ask him a lot of questions. It'll be terrific having him co-host for me, but our guest is a very special one, Don Mattingly, who did a terrific job as a bench coach for the Blue Jays, managed for 12 years in the major leagues. I think he's still going to keep going, doing something, whether it be managing, coaching, whatever. He's up for the Hall of Fame, deserving the Hall of Fame. I know the back knocked him out prematurely, but it's a guy who had 312 in the major leagues, won an MVP, won a batting title, and we're going to talk to Mattingly about that World Series, what he's going to do next. If you stick with us on the show with Jon Heyman and Sean Casey. It is my pleasure to bring in Sean Casey, the mayor. It's called the mayor because he's the nicest guy. Although I think we had a poll at MLB Network, right? And you might have finished second. Did you hear about that? I think Lauren Shahadi. Did you know that?
She's the nicest. She wins. Shahadi wins.
You're just as nice. You should have been 1 and 1A, but I think you did finish second officially. So he is the mayor for a reason. He's everybody's friend. Sean Casey, 302 lifetime batting average too. Not many guys have a 302 average. Even in your day, there weren't a lot of guys hitting that 302 for your average for your career. So it's a pleasure to bring you in as my co-host. Joel Sherman is out this week. He deserved vacation. It was a tough run for us. But what did you think? You were there too. What do you think of this World Series, these playoffs, and where baseball's at right now?
Yeah, well, first off, Johnny, thanks for having me on. Second off, you're right. Sherm needs a vacation. Probably every month that guy needs a vacation.
I need a vacation from him. No,
yeah. It's worked out great for both you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I you know what, that World Series, I was there at Game 6 and 7. Had a chance to be around it. I thought it was one of the best World Series ever. And I think one of the things. There's so many different takeaways. Obviously, we have the IKF play not scoring and some missed opportunities for the Blue Jays in Game 7. But when you think about Yamamoto getting a chance to pitch, I think it was Game 2 and then Game 6, and then come back with no days rest and throw like 30, 40 pitches in Game 7 to kind of keep the game where it was. Johnny, I felt like that was the difference. I mean, we could talk about this play, that play, but when you have a weapon like Yamamoto and how nasty he was during that postseason, I mean, I think that was the X factor.
Yeah, of course, I expect you to emphasize a positive as Yamamoto, and he was the deserved MVP. There were so many close plays that the Blue Jays could look back on, I guess, negatively. They played fantastic. They were a great team. They had a great season. They killed the Yankees in the division series. They won the LCS with that great home run by Springer, and they really did outplay the Dodgers. So got to give them credit. And I actually legitimately felt bad for them when I was in their clubhouse afterward. It was something else. You did play in the World Series, right? And I wanted to ask you, as a guy who played in the World Series, now you played very well. I think you hit, forget 302, I think you hit about 550 in that World Series. But the rest of your teammates, they didn't do anything. What happened? I know you had a timeout, right? You had such a good team that you won so easily in the LCS, and you had so much time.
Yeah.
What year was that again?
That was 2006, and it's funny because this is that same situation this year with the Dodgers. They swept the Brewers. The Blue Jays went to Game 7 with the Mariners with that same situation, and in the only 4 other times that's happened that the one team swept, the other team went to 7 games. Every time the team that went to 7 games won it. This is the first time that a team didn't with the Dodgers. When I go back to that World Series, I don't know. We just could, Johnny, brother, playing Major League Baseball, this is a game of rhythm, man. This is a game of every single night you're playing. There's no days off, really. A couple days here and there, but most of those are travel days. So you get into a rhythm visually, you get into a rhythm physically and mentally, and all of a sudden you get that 6-7 days off. I know for me, sometimes at the All-Star break, if I wasn't in the All-Star game, coming back after the break, it always took me a couple days to get going, and you don't have time if it's in the World Series. I look back at that World Series in 06. I still felt like we were the better team, but we got beaten 5 games by the Cardinals. We were 1-1 going back to St. Louis, and we lost 3 in a row, and just a tough pill to swallow. We had 8. Talk about not giving teams extra outs in the World Series. We had 8 errors in that World Series, 5 from our pitchers. PFP work, balls were just flying down the first base line, down the third base line. And, we just weren't able to do what we needed to do, and then and the Cardinals end up winning. Still bothers me, Johnny, 19 years later. Can't believe it.
Sorry to bring it up. Yeah, I know that Tigers team, not only did you feel that you were the better team, everybody felt you were the better team that year, right? Yeah. The Cardinals weren't that good in the regular season. They played great, obviously a great postseason. Surprise teams, the Mets included, but your team was an overwhelming favorite, and it does go to that argument. Is it better to have that time off, or maybe it's not? Maybe it's a disadvantage to be so good that you've eliminated that previous team. Now, obviously, that was not, even though you were great, that was not one of our better World Series. This World Series was fantastic, though, with all the different things that happened, that liner that Muncy caught, the grounder that Miguel Rojas fielded and barely caught IKF at the plate.
Jeez. Great
play by Paez.
The doubling up Barger in Game 6 to end the game with that pick by Rojas, and the Kike's playing short in there. 18 innings in Game 3. Then you come back extra innings in Game 7. It was just, and then also too, thinking back, like Muncy homers, they trickled back. Muncy, Rojas, Will Smith. It wasn't anything crazy, but it was like a solo win it. It was an incredible World Series all around.
Yeah, where does it rank for you? It's hard. My head was buried in the computer, so I kind of missed it. I was trying to write my story, but I've gone back and looked at it. It looked fantastic. I think it's one of the greatest ever, and I know that you obviously were really close during that 2001 World Series. That's what I went back to. I went back to, man, what's a World Series that had everything and kind of didn't end up the way you thought it was going to end up? Was the 2001 World Series when the D-backs came back and beat Mariano Rivera, that Luis Gonzalez hit in the 9th in Game 7. I was just in Arizona. This was that same kind of feel. I really believe the Blue Jays outplayed the Dodgers. As a matter of fact, the stats say it. I think it was 5 of 7 games they outplayed them. But at the end of the day, they didn't get the big number that they needed. Was first 1 to 4 wins. And I think it was one of the top 3 World Series of all time. I don't know if it's the greatest, but because it's so fresh in our minds, I feel like it's definitely one of the best of all time. Yeah, that 01 was fantastic. The 91, before your time, went fantastic. That went to Game 7. That was that pitcher's duel with Smoltz. Yeah, I remember that, yeah. Right, with Smoltz and Morris going to the end. One thing Mad Dog was on last week, and he pointed out that the memorable moments in this World Series were memorable positive moments were mostly by the team that eventually won, the Dodgers. The Freeman home run, the home run by Miggy Rowe, the home run by Will Smith, the catch by Paez, the plays that was the winning team. The one thing about the 01 World Series, and it was fantastic series, and there's no question about it, the memorable moments, the Jeter home run, the home runs that won the extra innings against their reliever, Kim, I believe. Yeah, those were ended up being by the losing team. This one ended up being by the winning team. That's a Mad Dog thing. Only he would have thought of it, but I kind of see the point to it and why that might be considered the better World Series. What about overall baseball? Where do you think baseball is right now? Are you worried? I know you work in baseball still. You have the Mayor's Office, which is a fantastic podcast that you do with my friend Chinch, who also works at the New York Post. New York Post. What do you think? Are we concerned that we're going to have a work stoppage? At a time we had 51 million people watching this World Series. Yeah. It was not only a great World Series, it was a World Series that was popular and watched by everyone. Yeah. And it seems like it would be a shame if they weren't able to work this out. Yeah, it would be a shame if there was a work stoppage. It really would be. That would not be good for baseball, not be good for the fans, for baseball in general. Nobody. Wouldn't be good for anybody. And I agree with you, Joe. I think the game's in one of the greatest places it's ever been. I really do. You saw the viewership of the World Series. I think you have you have 2 generational players on each coast. You have Aaron Judge on the East Coast and on both coasts, and you got Shohei Ohtani on the West Coast. 2 of the greatest players this game will ever see, kind of leading the way, winning MVPs and leading their club. So
there's a lot of great young players in the game. I think the analytics also, too, kind of brings the fan in a little bit more. When guys are learning more about the game, there's more interest in the game of baseball, and I just really think it's in a great place. I think they've done a great job with the pitch clock. I think the clock has shortened the games, which I think has made it more interesting, too. Looking forward to the ABS system next year with a couple of the challenges to see how that goes. I think that's going to elevate the game. So I think overall the game's in a great place.
I'm with you, and I love the challenge system. You always knew when a strike was thrown to you, right? When you were hitting up, you knew which one.
I'd like to think I did. I like to think, not always.
Well, I think they're going to take that out of the pitcher's hand, right? Most teams are going to just say the catcher should decide because the catchers know. And I know that Barnes, who was cut eventually, but in spring training, the catcher for the Dodgers, Barnes, he was like 10 for 10 on the challenge. I think that's what teams need to do, and not let the pitcher or even the hitter decide. Let the catchers be the ones that really decide this. Some cases, if it's a key play, key pitch, the hitter, I think, will have to decide for the offense. So anyway, you have such great insight. It's great having you on. Baseball's in a great spot. We just got off a great World Series, and we have a great guest who was in that World Series. And we'll talk to him about how disappointed he was, about his fantastic career, and he's up for the Hall of Fame now. So great timing to have Don Mattingly, who was your idol, one of your two main idols growing up. And I covered him with the Yankees, so he's a perfect guest for Sean and for myself. Don Mattingly next on the show with Jon Heyman and Sean Casey. It is now my pleasure to welcome in Don Mattingly, who is a former MVP, six-time All-Star. He's up for the Hall of Fame with the Veterans Committee ballot. I'm not sure they still call it Veterans Committee, but modern era certainly is deserving. Full disclosure, I voted for him every single time. He should be in the Hall of Fame. But lots to talk about with Don, and really a pleasure to bring him in. One of the best guys in baseball, 14-year Major League career, MVP, batting title. I think it was a 312 lifetime batting average, something like that. Pretty good. Manager for 12 years, coach for another 10. And anyway, welcome in, Donnie. You've been here before, and I appreciate your coming back.
No, I appreciate you having me on, John.
All right, let's get right to it. That World Series, that season, it was something else. You were a bench coach for the Blue Jays and for John Schneider. You were his idol growing up. He really seemed to grow into that role and do a great job. But how do you look back on it? Obviously, it was a very heartbreaking World Series. I never saw a clubhouse that broken up, and I get it. I mean, they had it. But looking back, it was quite a season by the Blue Jays. How do you process the whole thing? Are you looking at it positively, or are you still kind of thinking, wow, we could have done it?
Probably all of the above. Definitely positive. What a team. Pleasure to be a part of that, be a part of John's staff, be with those guys. We talked a little bit about before we started, but this is a great group of guys for me, from kind of top to bottom. I thought Snides did a great job of uniting not only the staff, but the players, emboldened these guys to be themselves, but show up and play and get better all the time. So it was fun. It was great. So it's definitely a positive. Obviously disappointed when you don't win. Feel like we played good enough to win. Ball bounces here or there. You never know, but at the end of the day, the Dodgers won. They got the hits when they needed them there late. But obviously we were right there.
Donnie, I want to talk a little bit about, just watching your team play all year long. You obviously being in the bench coach role. I know you took more too with the hitters, more of a role with the hitters too. I want to ask you, when I watched that lineup, it felt like a Don Mattingly lineup. It really did. As far as working at bats, tough at bats, putting the ball in play, but it could still take you out of the ballpark. Could you talk about the hitting philosophy nowadays in 2025? And what was your hitting philosophy with these guys as far as putting the ball in play and the tough at bats that they had throughout the year?
Well, I can't say it's my hitting philosophy, honestly. David Popkins, Lou Ionati, and Hunter Mintz, who just got the job in San Francisco, these guys did a tremendous job of uniting that whole group. And I think that was the theme. It's kind of like, I think one of the T-shirts that kind of get going during the course of the season was 9 against 1. And so it was a group thing. And it was a lot of the same club that we had the year before that could put the ball in play. But I feel like this group united in the fact of like, hey, we're getting pitches to hit, we're turning it loose. If we don't get pitches to hit early, we won't. But I think what these guys were able to accomplish, and I'm going to say the hitting group, because that group did a tremendous job. And it was a tough lineup, right? Yeah. And it was just we could put the ball in play, and you could really see it against pitchers like Tariq Skubal, Max Fried, Rodon, the guys that were really top of the elite guys. We made these guys work. We frustrated them. You could see it. And not the fact that we went in saying, hey, we got to work them. It was just that we fouled off pitches. You know, they didn't get the strikeouts they were used to. There was an at-bat that Bo had against Tariq Skubal in Detroit. I think it was 13 or 14 pitches. Ended up being either a walk or a hit. But, I mean, he was fouling off pitches, changed up, slider, just fighting. And that kind of embodied what we were this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. Popkins, I hear only fantastic things about. The team hit 265, best in baseball, second fewest strikeouts to Kansas City. Really a fantastic season all around. You eliminated the Yankees. You played really well in the World Series, actually outplayed the Dodgers, outscored them. But, you know, as I mentioned, that clubhouse was as broken up as I've ever seen it. Two clubhouses that stand out for me after a losing World Series. 2001 Yankees, they were stunned. They were just shocked that they had lost that to the Diamondbacks, and the Jays last year, how upset they were, which I get it. I mean, you have a 3-0 lead, a 4-1, 4-2, and you have pitchers coming in who've been really dominant and outstanding, and they each gave up one run. None of them were terrible, but the Dodgers just kept pecking away. That home run by Rojas, who I know you managed when you were with the Dodgers and know very well, and then the home run by Will Smith. But I want to ask you, you handled it very professionally. You've been around a while, as you mentioned, 40 years in baseball. How was it for you afterward to try to peel it all away and think about what happened or not think about what happened? And I mean, does anything stand out for you in particular? Obviously, there was the liner right at Muncie. There was that great play in left center by Pages. And a lot of people are making a big deal out of IKF, and he should have had a bigger lead. Was there anything in particular that stood out for you that you really thought about and said, you know what, we could have done this differently?
Yeah, I think, though, number one, the clubhouse was absolutely, I wouldn't call it stunned, because the Dodgers got a great team. You know, so that we're not stunned that you don't win that thing. In a game 7, anything can happen. I felt more like people made a kind of little bit. I seen a little bit of a big deal. Like I was sitting there and Bo came up to me at the end of the thing. I'm not sad for myself. It was an exhilarating month, exhausting month. So great with my family, being there the whole time. So that part of it was tremendous. The pain you felt was for each guy, because that team, and I've said it a lot, they were so invested in each other, in winning, doing everything that each guy could do to win. And when you've laid it all, I tell people, we laid it all out there. These guys laid it out there, and then they came up short. And that's what that locker room was to me. And at the end of the day, you can't feel bad about that club, because what do we ask people to do? Lay it on the line. Give us everything you got, and then you are a winner no matter what happens. If you win or lose, you can't tell me that that Blue Jay team is not a winner. Those guys aren't winners, because the way they played, how they went about it. So plain and simple for me, those guys are winners, and they did everything they could. And that's why the locker room is like it is. The one play, I mean, a lot of little plays, right, in that series, great plays, both sides, right? The 18-inning game, some of the relays the Dodgers made with Teo into the second base was losing him right now, Tommy Edmonds. that play, Barger's throw, Vlad's play across the diamond when he comes up and takes a short hop and throws a skipper across the field to get a guy at third. The Barger play, the ball he hits in left center that gets stuck under the wall.
Oh,
For me, that's
jeez.
one that Straw scores, and we got a guy at second, and we probably bunt him over. And so we get both runs and probably tie that game up, right? But that didn't happen. You said it, the Jimenez line drive, we're up to guy on second, we're going to move him, but then Snide, kind of takes, they're crashing everywhere. And Hemi hits a line drive right at Muncy. That's probably a double in the corner. We're up 5-2, another guy on second, and a chance to move a runner, get a guy in. So you see lots of little things. The one play, the IKF play, and I think it's played properly because you got the bases loaded, you got one out. The infield's totally drawn in, so you're not in a contact situation there, right? You got to at least freeze on a line drive. And if you really look at that video, Kirky's in the perfect spot. He's about a foot off the base, like IKF, because of our show. He does pull the ball. So I'd say the one thing that we kind of missed, and I'd say myself, Snide, third base, is that Barstow does not line out to third base. Right. He does not hit the line drives on that side of the field, really. And so you can get a little bit more. But if it was a right-handed hitter, IKF's probably right where he should be. And so I would say that's kind of on all of us for not picking it up in the moment. It's tough in the moment. A lot of stuff going on, right? You're thinking game's on the line. All this has happened. We're in the extra inning or bottom of the ninth, I think, there, right? The Varsho one there. So anyway, that's probably the one play that you feel like, if we really looked at that over again, had a little split second more time and said, hey, we can be off further at third because Barsh is not lining out to third. If he lines out to first, we can get back, right? We got a little more time. So that's the one thing I think that you change, but not IKF's fault. It's probably all of our faults.
Donnie, when you look at that World Series too, yes, so many little plays, and gosh, we all know of playing this game for so long. When you're giving the other team those chances and you don't capitalize, usually it comes back to bite you. It's like just incredible watching it. The one guy that I thought kind of went to another level, and I felt like that country was behind, was Vlad Guerrero Jr. I mean, can you talk about just him in that lineup, what he meant to that team, and you got a chance to be with him every day, watching him go and do his thing.
Yeah, Vlad is an incredible player, and he's become more and more of a leader. He started last year, before last season. You could see him starting to speak up, understand his role and his importance within that group, and needed to use his voice. He started doing that a little bit more. It's more by example than anything, but he took it to a different level, like you said, in the playoffs. He kind of struggled a little bit down the stretch. I felt like he was trying so hard because Bo was hurt. We're trying to clinch. The Yankees are rolling. They're chasing. They're catching it. They're keep creeping on us. I thought Vlad tried to do too much a little bit, but he got to the playoffs, and I remember I kept saying to him every day, I said, it's your time, Vlad. Your time. This is your time. He is so good that when those kind of guys catch a feel, it's over. And when they catch that feel, it lasts. It's not like a couple of games. It's an extended period of time. He did it the year before. He got hot second half and held it the whole time and was crazy hot. So he's an incredible player defensively and offensively, and now becoming more and more of a leader. The Blue Jays are in a good spot with him there, being there a long period of time, because he plays with joy too. Which is important. He has that smile on his face, and the country loves him. The city loves him. He's so important to that organization.
He was amazing in the Yankee series throughout the entire playoffs. Just an incredible job. One thing I didn't realize, what a confident thrower like you were to every base, to second, to third, to home, and of course even the tosses to first. and he's a good base runner as well. I mean, he's really an all-around player, and I'm glad that everybody got to see that. And we could talk about the World Series forever at this point, but
Right.
I want to talk about another first baseman, and that's you. I'm glad we have
Hey, I like talking about these other guys.
I know. I'm sorry, Don. I know you. I know you. We have the Veterans Committee now. I'm glad we have the Veterans Committee. I voted for Fred McGriff every year. I voted for Dave Parker every year. And everybody else, not everybody, but they got very few votes from the writers, and the Veterans Committee corrected it. And I'm hopeful that the Veterans Committee will correct it and put you in the Hall of Fame this time. It's a stacked ballot. I don't personally, you can say what you want on this. I don't agree that Bonds and Clemens need to be and Sheffield need to be on the ballot again. I want to honor the guys who did it right, and you certainly did do it right. And I mean, you've been very good about this. If I were you, I'd been screaming forever about not being in the Hall of Fame. But what's your thoughts on the Hall of Fame, the ballot, and everything else?
Well, I will say I hope I get in. Obviously, everybody would like to be recognized for that. I think I've understood over the years, and when I decided to kind of stop a little bit early, I probably had 3 or 4, maybe 5 years left in me, but I made some decisions based on family that I don't regret at all. So I know that I'm leaving, 5 years of numbers, and I call them kind of like tack on numbers at the end of your career. How many more hits do you get? How many more ribbies? Whatever, that type of thing. So I've always thought I played my cards already. And I'm not a politicker or anything like that. I'm not going to go out and say I belong. But recently, as you get older, I think you find like a little bit more nerve in you or whatever it is. But I think about it like there's never been a guy and I would look at anybody in the Hall of Fame, and obviously didn't see them all pitch or didn't play against all of them. But like if I see a pitcher in there or anybody in there, I feel like I could hit anybody, right? And I feel like that in general. And not that I would just kill anybody in there, but I know I would figure it out over time that I would put swings on guys. And I've also said, and I said it on the Dan Patrick show, that if you were at a bunch of guys playing in the Sandlot and the Hall of Famers were all out there and you're all playing, I don't feel like I would look like I was out of place on the field. I feel like you put me at first, and I don't mind saying this, I feel like I was as good as anybody that played first base. And I know Keith was great. And there's been a lot of great first basemen. JT Snow, guys that I've kind of grew in playing. I've seen guys lately talk about Vlad and different guys. But I feel like I could play first base with anybody. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. Again, I don't want to – if it doesn't happen, it's not going to change who I am, what I think about things. No bitterness is going to be in there. But, you hope you get that opportunity.
Donnie, I'll tell you what, I'm hoping, man. I had all your posters growing up I still got them in my parents' house. My Don Mattingly posters still up there. And I know a lot of us in your generation watching you play, man, you did it right. You played it hard. You were the best in the business for a long period there. I hope Cooperstown gets it right and gets you in. And I want to ask you a question because, you've had such a unique career, 40 years in the game. You've been one of the best players. You've been one of the best managers. You were on one of the best teams this year as the bench coach, and you've watched this game evolve, which is really awesome. How is the game in a good spot, Donnie? I know it's different than when maybe you and I played, but what do you love about the game now, and what are some things that you might think aren't as good as when you played?
It's absolutely in a good spot. I think if you watch closely, these guys are so athletic. I mean, the plays that we see like on a nightly basis, guys taking homers away, making plays. I think athletically, the game has continued to evolve, which naturally will do. There's better training. There's better, we got better nutrition for the players. We got better recovery for the players. It gives them an opportunity to be better and better. So if I would say, well, are these players better than Mickey Mantle or Joe DiMaggio or whoever, right? Whoever we want to talk about. I would say if you give Joe DiMaggio and Mickey Mantle and whoever the same training methods and deal with the same things, they would have evolved and been unbelievable in the same way. I do think the game's in a good spot. There are certain things, obviously, as a older player, an older person that I don't love. I don't love some of the, the kind of all about me look to it. I don't mind it. I just don't like sometimes the sportsmanship of it. I don't feel like it's a great representation to our young players, little league, moving up. That is this what it looks like it just seems like bad sportsmanship sometimes, the things that guys do. And I know both sides are okay with it now. Like pitchers, if a player bat flips and does certain things, they don't mind. And players don't seem to mind if the pitcher does something. They seem to all be okay with it. So that part's good, right? But I still don't like the look sometimes as an older player. I would like the game to kind of stay a little better fundamentally. I think we've gotten away from certain things at certain times, and some of it's put the ball in play. Understand when there's times to put the ball in play. Doesn't mean you don't need to drive the ball, and nobody ever. And I'll talk to you, Sean. I guarantee you never went up there and go, hope I can roll a ball through the hole here. Right. No, you're trying to hit the ball hard, right? You're trying to hit the ball hard. And that's what y'all try to do. But there are times in the game that says, hey, I need to put this ball in play somehow. So have that as part of your tool belt, right? To be able to do we've kind of gotten away. I think base running fundamentals have gotten a little shaky. Just because we don't pay attention to it there for a while. It's like, hey, we don't want nobody to steal or don't get thrown out. So I don't think there's as much attention to that detail as that there could be. We tried to push it. You try to push it, but you would like more. I would like more detail in the fundamentals of playing the game. Those little things, right, that seem to get overlooked a little bit. But in general, the game's in a great spot, great athletes. The guys are good guys. Like I always felt like players, these guys are good people, good guys. So I'd say the game's in a good spot.
Yeah, I'm with you on all that. And your team certainly was filled with good guys. Ernie Clement, I love Vlad. Just a really good group overall. And, I certainly understand why they were devastated at the end, of course. I will apologize. I didn't have your poster up on my wall because I am older than you. So I had Mickey Mantle on the wall and then Mercer. But,
better choice.
All right. No, you did all right for yourself. Last question, again, will be on you, so you won't love this, but I appreciate you staying over. I appreciate you coming on. But I do want to ask you why the decision to move on and what might you do next? I do think that the Phillies are at least one team, and I'm probably many others that would love you on their staff. I know the Yankee fans want you back in New York. They'll say you belong as a Yankee. Where is Don Mattingly now with what you're going to be doing from now on? And you are younger than me, so I'm still working, so I know you can still work.
Yeah, I feel good. My brain's still working for the most part. I lose more names now. There's names that get away from me. The Toronto thing, I'll address that one first. I kind of knew before the season, right, that when I left Miami, I thought this is probably it for me, right? And I kind of walked away from there and felt like it was time for a new voice down there and in Miami. So I kind of walked away from that and really thought I'd be home and coaching Little League or doing whatever, right? And then Toronto called, right? And Ross called and talked about the situation with Snide being a young manager, took over for Charlie the year before, wanted some veteran presence around him, just to help, just kind of be another voice and a set of eyes. And so it was interesting. It was nice to be wanted, right? Toronto wanted me. I felt like the purpose was good. It felt, good for that. I knew they had a pretty good team. Right, you had Vlad and Bo and some guys that could swing the bat, so it was going to be a good team. But like before the season started this year, I kind of knew that Snide was where he did not need me anymore. He was past that point where I was feeling like I was needed really or that useful. Right, in game, yeah, maybe here or there, but in general, he knew what he wanted to do. Right, and he had it together. And so I knew it was time for me really before the season started. So that's kind of the way that went down. I will say that a couple of things that have kind of changed that a little bit. Louis loves being around. My youngest son loves being around the ballpark this year, and that just started. Wow. Where it was like he could go, he was old enough to go to the park with me. He could hit in the cage. He ended up being able to shag on the field some. And then the other kids around, they just played. So he was around baseball all the time and loved it. So that, and he was like, Dad, you got to get going, right? So that makes that a little tougher, right? But still, I knew Toronto was, that for me had ran its course. And so now where do we go from here? I mean, I have had some contact. Nothing official. I'll just put it like that. There's nothing official, but I am excited about the opportunity that I think is going to be there, but nothing official.
Okay, very good. Let's leave it at that. That's terrific, Don. I appreciate the time that you've given us again. I knew you and Sean would be a great combo. Sean, also a first baseman. By the way, Sean hit over 300 in his career. It's not
I watched Sean. He's the way. He don't get off free here. I watched him. I watched those happy feet. Him and Al Morris over there in Cincinnati.
Yeah, happy feet. You could outrun Sean, believe me.
Well, anyway, John, you could outrun me.
No,
okay?
No, not me. I'm not an athlete. I couldn't outrun any athlete. But maybe.
Johnny, I want to say one thing. I got to say it to Donnie before he goes, but Donnie, I had an incredible article. Like I told you, I had you and Will Clark were my two guys. You're the reason I really, seriously, I'm not kidding you, wanted to play Major League Baseball. But in the article, you had said one day, you said, you know what? They're like, at times you're either a great hitter or you're not. But defensively, anyone can get great if you put the work in. And I just want to tell you, I feel like defensively, I went to another level, and I always had Don Mattingly on my shoulder saying, hey, if you put the work in, you can become a great defender. And so I appreciate that, man. It really was impacted my career. You didn't know it, but you were on my right shoulder every time I was taking grounders.
Well, you think about it, it's true. They used to say anybody can play first, but anybody can stand over there. I don't know if anybody can play it. Right. But really, defense is really about wanting to be a good defender. If you think about it, if you want to be a good defender, you can be. You may not have the speed to play center field or whatever, but you can be in the right spot, throw the ball to the right base, catch everything you're supposed to catch, all that. If you want to be a good defender, you can be. It doesn't mean you're a Gold Glover, but you're still a good defender if you do those things.
Love that.
Interesting. I mean, I believe it, but it doesn't mean they're going to be a defender like you. I could still see you pick it out there. And I've seen you play third base as a left-hander, which I don't think anybody else can do. So,
that was fun.
Not that many great players were great managers, and you were that, and you're a great coach as well. So, and a great guest, and we really appreciate you being on, Don. It's, we felt you were the perfect guy with Sean. And the timing was good, and best of luck in the Hall of Fame. You deserve it. I watched it, so maybe I think I know better than other people who are going by something that doesn't make any sense, like a war number or something like that, but. If you were there and you saw it, you know that Don Mattingly is a Hall of Famer, and I really appreciate you being on. It's been our pleasure, and we'll have one more segment with Sean and myself. We're going to do Hit or Error when we come back on the show with Jon Heyman, with Sean Casey today, and Don Mattingly. All right, welcome back. And now we're going to do our Hit or Error, which is our weekly segment. No Joel Sherman here, but it's a hit to just have Sean Casey. Casey, is it a hit or an error for you this week with Major League Baseball?
I'd say a hit would be the Nimmo and the Semien trade. I would say, I think it's tough for Mets fans to watch Brandon Nimmo go because he's such a fan favorite. But I do think it does make sense for both of those guys to get new scenery. I think Texas loves the power bat that Nimmo's going to bring, and I think Semien coming, still being an elite defender, winning. I would just want to go another Gold Glove. I think him coming to New York is a good thing too, and he's also a leader in that clubhouse. So when I look at it, it's like two aging veterans with different skill sets that I believe also, too, if Semien could find his swing, he really struggled. 2025 was kind of up and down, but I still think there's more left in the tank. If you go back to 2023, he almost won the MVP. So, I think it's a hit for both teams.
I'm with you. Texas needed the offense. The Mets needed defense, and they got that. Semien won the Gold Glove. Brandon Nimmo knocked in 92 runs and hit 25 home runs. So I think it made sense. I know that the Met fans are upset. They love Brandon Nimmo, and understandably so. Terrific guy, but I'm with you. I think that was a hit for both teams. Absolutely. I'm going to do a hit as well. We're very positive. I figured we would be positive this week with you here, Sean. Joel being here, being one of the nicest guys. Joel and I did not get nominated for the nicest at MLB. We weren't even nominated. We're not even on the board, much less get a vote.
Hey, Johnny, they don't know you the way I know you. I know you behind the scenes in the office. You know what I mean?
We were roommates. We were roommates for a year until
right.
I got out of there. It was a little too much of a circus for me. So I'm going to give a hit. My hit is for the Veterans Committee. I'm glad that they're reviewing Don Mattingly, Dale Murphy, Jeff Kent, and Fernando Valenzuela, and 4 others. I didn't mention some of the others because some of those others cheated. I get it. They were great players as well. I'm going to be very disappointed. We'll have to have a big error if Barry Bonds or Roger Clemens or Gary Sheffield get in the Hall of Fame instead of Don Mattingly. Not just that he was a hero of Sean and a great guy who I covered. He was the best player, arguably the best player in baseball for a half a decade, and arguably the greatest first baseman of all time. I know a lot of people say Keith Hernandez. I think it's a tie. Hernandez and Mattingly were the best. So that's my hit for the week. We're not doing any errors this week. We're very, very positive, and I appreciate that, Sean. It's been great having you on. You are an awesome co-host. I will love to have you on any time. And I wanted to thank Tommy Hogan, our producer, for doing a great job. Don Mattingly, who's actually a hero of both of us at this point now that I know Don Mattingly, but you loved him when you were a kid, and I think that's terrific. Mattingly was a fantastic guest with great timing. I want to remind everybody to catch the show on Spotify, Apple, New York Post Sports YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcast, to check out New York Post Sports, nypostsports.com. Anytime. It's been my pleasure. It's been a great week. I really appreciate it, Sean. And Don was fantastic too. And we will see everybody next week.